Okay, here we go. I think we are live. We should be good. So hello, everybody. This is Johannes Fisslinger, co-founder of Lifestyle Prescriptions University and National Yoga Month. And today I'm super excited that Tilly is here with us to teach you about yoga, about the legs specifically, but also the organ-mind-brain connection and yoga in general. Now, TillyLou James, she's been practicing as a physical therapist for like 30 plus years. Yoga teacher, is trained in lifestyle prescriptions health coaching and lifestyle prescriptions yoga. And so I want to welcome her. And again, thank you so much for everybody participating and celebrating National Yoga Month. And without much further ado, so I want to welcome Tilly and say hi, Tilly, and
Hi.
over to our audience all over the world. Enjoy, everybody.
Hi, thank you, Hannah. It's great to be here, and what an exciting opportunity. National Yoga Month, yay! So today I'm going to look at the legs, and it's going to probably be, especially for those of you who do a lot of yoga already, and you're used to doing lots of postures, you're going to find that it's something quite different. And I hope that for those of you who are not used to doing yoga, you will find that this is quite a useful practice that you can do anywhere, anytime. So we're looking at the legs. And of course, at the bottom of the legs, we have our feet. And we don't tend to give much attention to our feet until something goes either wrong with them, or if we're ladies and we want to go and get our toenails painted. But our feet are the connection with Mother Earth. So they provide our physical foundation to our standing posture. But even more than that, it's from the feet that we get a sense of balance. So there are two very important things to our posture about the feet. So we're going to look at the feet very much it's probably more of a standing meditation. I think it's probably safer to say that that's what it's going to be. So in a moment, I'm going to get you to come on up into standing. And I did put a little note earlier. For the purpose of this, you might want to have a chair that you can lean on. And if you haven't got a chair, then you might want to make sure that you are close to a wall. And so what we're going to do is we're going to come up into standing. Now, when we start bringing our awareness to anything, we notice that it changes kind of almost all by itself. And that is just the very nature of things. But with practice, we can get better at this process of observation. And it's within the observation that we start to find little clues about what's going on in our body. And so that's what we're really working with here today. So, and it's probably as good a time as any to say that there is no judgment with anything that comes up, anything that you notice. There's no right, there's no wrong, but it's very useful to just keep a little mental note. And that was the other thing I perhaps wrote in that little post earlier on Facebook, that to get yourself a pen and paper, because again, when you're really in that process of inner observation, you can have thoughts which are very helpful to you, and if we don't write them down, we can tend to forget. So without further ado, I think I just stole that from Johannes, didn't I? It must have been resonating somewhere with me. So I'm going to get you to come up into standing. Now, I know that I'm a very long way away, but I just kind of wanted to mirror really what I'm going to be asking you to do. So I might just take the computer back just very slightly there. And let's just see if that helps. I'm not chopping off the top of my head. So this is where if you want to have a chair, that's absolutely fine. And I'm going to invite you to come up into standing, and I just want you to imagine that you are in a queue, for example, at the post office. Now, if it's comfortable for you, let your eyes close. If you find that that makes you too unsteady, then let your eyes just soften and let your gaze just become very soft on something which is sort of at about horizon level, so that you have no sense that you're straining your eyes. You're either looking up or looking down. Otherwise, if it's okay for you just to close your eyes. And the first thing that we're going to do is bring our awareness into the connection of the soles of our feet on the ground. And you're just noticing that connection. You know, the adult human, healthy human being takes between 4,000 and 18,000 steps a day. So think how many steps your little feet have walked in your lifetime. And think about how much awareness and appreciation even you give to your feet. So noticing the contact of the soles of your feet on the floor. Where do you feel most of your weight? Is it the same from the left compared to the right foot? Do you feel that you have more weight in the balls of your feet or in your heels? What about on the outside border compared to the inside? Just noticing what's there. And then bring your awareness up to the ankles. When we think about joints, we often tend to refer to them as the meeting point of two bones. But we could equally describe a joint as the space that exists between two bones. So think about the space that you have in your ankles right now. And again, compare left to right. Now, particularly around the ankles, we have a lot of little sensors. They're called organs of proprioception. And proprioception is the sense of where your body is in space. So even though you have either your eyes closed or a soft focus, you can say, you know where your arm is, you know whether it's bent or whether it's straight, you have a sense of the position of your head, and again with your legs. And all of this information is brought to the brain by the proprioceptive organs. And they're in very high concentration around our joints, particularly the ankles and in the feet. And that makes sense if you think about it. When we think about our feet giving us that foundation and that stability. And let your awareness travel up the legs now to the knees. And again, see whether without changing anything, when your awareness arrives there, you can get a sense of the finer details of the position of your knees. Are you standing with your knees very straight? Maybe even locked tight. Or are you standing with your knees relaxed? Compare left to right. And then let your awareness travel up the thighs to your hips. And once again, noticing what's there. Now, sometimes, because we will often say that someone was standing with their hands on their hips. If you stand with your hands on your hips, you're actually putting your hands on the top of the pelvic or hip bones. But the hip joint is actually much lower than this. It's way down here at the top of the thighs. You might just even want to feel where your own hip sockets are. If you run your hands up your thighs, and you'll find there's a little dip in here. And this is where your hip joints are. So if it helps, just pop your hands on there and get a sense of how your hips feel, the sense of space, the left compared to the right. So our hips are very much involved with this foundation of us, of our footing, of our stability. And it's around the hips here that we really access the emotional component of meeting with our peers and being able to stand up in our relationship. Letting go of the awareness in the hips there, and come up to the pubic bone. So coming from the dip from the hip joints just into the center onto the pubic bone. And get a sense of whether you have any sensation there at all. And it might be nothing. And that too is actually noting something, noticing that we don't have much of a sense of something is and can be as valuable as telling us that we notice a tingling or a pain or a tightness. So from the pubic bone, if we travel now in between the legs and all the way around to the tailbone at the back, and bring your awareness right into the pelvic floor. Like feet, pelvic floor often only gets attention when there's something wrong. And so working with it really is a sort of meditation like this, and really bringing our awareness into an area certainly like the pelvic floor, where eventually there can be a lot of problems there, especially for women who spend a lot of time standing on their feet through pregnancy. But we have other associations of the pelvic floor in lifestyle prescriptions, and we'll be talking about those in another session that I'm running. We're bringing your awareness now around to the buttocks. And again, it can be very useful to actually put our hands on them and notice, are we clenching one buttock? It's very, very, very common for people to clench one side. They have no idea that they're doing it. So comparing left and right, and just seeing what's there for you. And then bring your awareness to the whole of the pelvic bowl. So this is this lower portion of the abdomen in between the legs and the chest area. The whole of the pelvic bowl here, lower belly. And see if you can get a sense of what you notice there, what it feels like. Many people tend to have a default posture where they stand with their bottom tucked under. And they don't even know they're doing it. And certainly in my generation, a lot of women were told to tuck their tail under. So when you tuck your bottom under, you're in what we call a posterior pelvic tilt. And this creates a lot of tension in the pelvic area. And the opposite of that is standing with the bottom stuck out like this. And that is an anterior pelvic tilt. And it's very helpful to get a sense of whether we stand with the pelvis in neutral or an anterior or a posterior pelvic tilt. Whatever the position of the pelvis here will have a consequence for all of the position of the legs. And in the same way, whatever the position of the feet, it has a knock-on effect all the way up the legs and into the pelvic area, and actually all the way beyond. But just for the purposes of today, we're sticking with this lower half of the body. So taking one hand now onto the lower belly, below the navel, and the upper hand onto your chest, and noticing your breathing. Notice which hand moves first as you take a breath in. And notice the movement of your hands as you breathe out. Now see whether you can let the belly relax here, so that the diaphragm can come down into the belly as you breathe in. Maybe taking a really nice long breath there, I say long breath because sometimes when you say deep breath, immediately what happens is people take a big breath in the upper part of the chest area. And what we're looking for is for a breath to come in all the way into the belly. So we want this large muscle of the primary muscle of breathing, the diaphragm, to come down into the belly on a nice long breath in, and feel the belly receiving the diaphragm, receiving the breath. And then let your knees relax just a little. So I don't want you to be bending the knees so much. Again, I'm just going to come a little closer to the camera. So we're just looking for really a sense of, find a word that works for you. It might be bounce, it might be softness, it might be springiness, it might be sponginess. See whether you can get a word that works for you. So if you have noticed that you are someone who holds your knees really overly tight and straight, that you can use this word to remind you to let that softness come back into the knees. So I'm going to keep using the word. The word I really like here is a sense of softness. So I'm going to use that, but you feel free to put in your own word that really works for you. And notice how that changes both your breathing and also the relationship of your feet with the ground. And notice the change perhaps in the pelvic position. So people who tend to stand either with an anterior or a posterior pelvic tilt, there's often a locking at the knees. And when you let the knees just relax, you will find if you could spend 5, 10, 15 minutes just in this position. And what you will notice is that layer by layer by layer, the pelvis will start to relax and find its neutral position. You won't have to find it. When we notice that we are holding the pelvis in a certain way, either an anterior or a posterior pelvic tilt, and so let's just say I tend to stand with an anterior pelvic tilt, and then I say, oh, where is my neutral? Well, is it there? No, I think I'm in a posterior. Oh, I think I might have gone too far. And it can be really tricky trying to find that neutral position. But if we relax the knees and spend, as I say, a nice while there, we will find that the pelvis will actually find its way. And we can get a sense of how the pelvis is actually hanging away from the shoulder girdle. So with that softness in the knees there, I'm going to get you to take your weight a little bit onto the right foot and then lift up the toes on the left foot and stretch your toes long and wide, and then rest the ball of the foot back down again. And then press into the ball on your left foot, lift up your left heel and get a sense of length and width coming in the whole of the left foot. And then lower the heel down and take the weight onto that foot and do the same on the right leg. So we're picking up the toes and we're stretching them long and wide and then pushing into the ball of the foot, lifting up the heel and then lengthening and widening through the whole of the sole of the right foot. And then let the heel come back down and notice, how does that connection feel now? How does that feel in the ankles? How does that feel in the knees, and the hips, and the pelvis? And then in a moment, I'm going to get you to come over onto one leg. So this is where you might want to use your chair or your wall, and definitely open your eyes. So standing on the left leg, and then I'm picking up the right leg. And as you pick up the right leg, you want to try and have a sense that the knee is falling away from the hip. So you'll notice that my knee has come a little forwards there. I'm not lifting my heel too far off the floor. And you want to get a sense that you haven't shifted at the pelvis at all here. So if you can imagine, I had headlights on the front of my hips here. They were still pointing forwards. So what I'm going to get you to do in this position is overly straighten the left leg. Lock it really, really super tight. Now, I'm not going to hold on while I'm demonstrating this exercise. Actually, I think that's a bad idea. I am going to hold on. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to bend the top half of my body forwards just a little, and then back, and then over to one side and over to the other side. I'm going to invite you to do the same. So they're quite small movements here, but with a super tight locked knee. So what I'm doing with these upper body movements is I'm taking my body weight outside of my base of support. And so what this is doing is it's really challenging me, but I want you to do this with a super locked knee. Okay, and swap feet now. So over onto the right foot, really lock that knee tight, overly straighten it. And again, just taking your body outside of your base of support and get a sense of how much you're wobbling around. So we're going to come back onto the left leg now. And now what I want you to do is find that softness, find that sponginess in that left knee. And then do the same again, where you take your body weight out of your base of support. And you should find that the whole of the leg can be more responsive now to this test, this challenge to its balance, because you have this softness in the knee. And in lifestyle prescriptions, we talk about the knees being a joint of flexibility. So very often, as I'm talking, perhaps you'd like to go over onto your right leg now. So if we have a knee problem, we might ask ourselves, are we struggling in our flexibility in some part of our life, either in whether it's work or whether it's personal life, something where we feel that we haven't got that flexibility, that ability to shift and change with whatever's going on. And of course, the last 9 months have seen absolutely enormous change for all of us on many, many different levels. We're going to explore this a little bit further. So if you let that really come, or your awareness with the knees just fall away now, and then I'm going to get you to come and sit down on your chair. Let's see what happens if I come a little bit closer. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? Again, go like that. Okay. So, oh, sorry, I think I've chopped my head off. Have I chopped my head off too much? Maybe a little bit. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so if you can, from here, now because what we're doing with this is we're actually waking up, apart from anything else, we're waking up this observation and connection with our legs, rather than just expecting that they should do things for us. the most amazing thing about our body is that it is continually giving us feedback. It's giving us little messages. And all we need to do is listen. But oftentimes we just don't have much relationship with our body at all. We know when, as I said earlier, we know when something goes wrong. Oh, my elbow's hurting, oh, my knee's hurting. So when I teach these classes and in my own practice, and believe you me, I'm someone, I can just crack into something. But this is where I just say, do you know what? I invite you to put your hands around your thighs, and you're going to stroke all the way down to the knee, and leave one hand there, the hand on the same side, and let the other one stroke all the way down. And if you can, fold that leg over onto the other thigh. Now, if you just keep that contact there, and what I'm going to do and get you to do is just notice your knee. This is part of building a relationship with it. This knee that actually provides you with so much flexibility, so much opportunity to go with flow. And then come all the way down, and it doesn't matter whether you like your feet, whether you've cut your toenails recently or got rid of all of your dead skin. I'm just going to get you to really connect with your feet there. And think about how many steps your feet have done for you in your lifetime. So we're just going to really notice our feet, notice our ankles, and then with the stroking, again, just letting that leg come back down to the floor. And it would be easy, wouldn't it? Just to bring the other knee up. Yeah, right. Okay, yeah, I have a foot. Yeah, I have a knee. What's so special? So this is not what we're doing. So we're going to just stroke all the way down there and really caress it, okay? This is something so special. We have these legs that just do these most amazing things for us. And then all the way down and stroking around the foot there, noticing the toes, in between the toes. And by the way, if you don't massage your feet or connect with your feet very much, one of the best things that you can do is start to really spread these web spaces in between your toes. You noticed when I said to pick up your toes, I said to stretch them long and wide in the same way that we can with our hands. Can you do that with your feet? It's amazing how many people can't. And I know for myself that one side, my toes spread really quite nicely, and the other side, it's a little tricky. So lots of practice there. And that's really something to say. You can either get little balls of cotton wool and put them in between the toes, or you can get those toe spreaders, but you will find it will really start to wake up the sense of your physical foundations and also your balance in your feet. So when we think a little bit more about the lifestyle medicine, we consider that we are wired in one way or the other. Now, this is very familiar in Ayurvedic medicine. And say, oh yes, that's the female side of the body, that's the male side of the body. So a lot of traditions have their own theories on this. Well, what I like about lifestyle medicine is it's evidence-based. And so I'm just going to show you a little trick now. So I'm going to get you to pop your hands on your thighs, and then you're going to clap them. And then I want you to clasp them together so that your fingers are wrapped around the opposite hand. And then I want you to notice which thumb is on top. So I want to show you there. That's the position that I've asked you to come into. And it's the one that feels most natural to you. Now, if you're not sure, you can do that a few times. I know when I did this as a test, when I first was introduced to lifestyle medicine, I got quite hung up on it. I wasn't really quite sure. But in yoga, we come into a mudra, which is a hand gesture, where we put the hands together like this, and then we fold all the fingers, and then what we do is we open out the middle finger like this. And sure enough, every time I did this mudra, I found that one of my thumbs was on the top. So for sure, I have my answer. Now, whichever hand is on the top, in lifestyle medicine, we say that this is how you are wired. So my left thumb is on top. So this means that I am left wired. So this means that the left side of my body, when we're talking about the musculoskeletal system, the left side of my body is that side of my body that I will meet my equal relationships. So that's my work, that's my peers, my friends, my partners. That's the left side of the body. And the right side of the body is to do with my nurturing relationships. So both where I'm being nurtured and where I'm doing the nurturing. So this, we're talking about the relationship with parents, with children, with grandparents, with uncles and aunts, and perhaps even pets. And of course, sometimes, you know, what can happen with parent relationships is that at some point, there's a little bit of a role reversal there, and it's still a nurturing relationship. So when we think about the legs, if you've got some kind of knee issue going on, and you're kind of really not sure where it came from, you might just think about the flexibility within your relationships, depending on which way you're wired. So these are the things that we look at with lifestyle medicine. There's obviously a lot more to it, but I found that this is really helpful when we look at a lot of yoga postures. So when we come into tree pose, warrior pose, so particularly one-sided balances, or when we're in some kind of a lunge, it's really common for us to notice, wait a minute, why is it that I'm always stronger on this side compared to the other side? And why is it that my balance is always better on this side compared to the other side? And so this is why I find that working with lifestyle medicine together with yoga is really fantastic. So I'll be exploring a little bit more on that as the month goes on. We have a fantastic lineup of teachers throughout the month. And I'm just sorry that it's a little bit top heavy with me this week, but that was just the way that the schedule came together. So don't worry, because this style isn't going to be for everybody. And you're going to want to see what the other teachers have got to offer there. So don't worry that there's a little too many classes with me this week, but we've got lots of super teachers lined up. So I'm hoping that you found that a little useful and maybe introduce some new ideas. Have a little bit of time for questions and answers. I won't be able to answer any specific problems in terms of if you've got a knee problem or an ankle problem. That's something that you can get in touch with one of our practitioners. And you can do that through the Facebook page, just flag something up there. So I'm going to come just a little bit closer and just see whether anyone has got any questions that they would like to ask. If you want to pop it into the chat box. Okay, I can't see anything that's come up there, so I'm hoping that it has explained it okay for you, and that you've enjoyed that standing meditation. And I will look forward to seeing you again later on in the week. Enjoy the rest of your day, and have a little play with some of those standing exercises and see what you notice. I look forward to seeing you next time. Namaste.